Well, good evening once again. Day 1195 of the Trump administration, leaving 189 days to go until our presidential election. The president pointed out today there would be no press conference by the coronavirus task force, and he said that at the end of a press conference in the East Room. The subject was billed as the American business world, but he waded into the coronavirus nonetheless. The big headline from today was the president saying, quote, "This is going to go away. And whether it comes back in a modified form in the fall, we'll be able to handle it. We'll be able to put out spurts." He said, quote, "The worst of the pandemic is behind us." And this, quote, "Tremendous progress has been made, we think, on a vaccine. You always have to say think, and then you have to test it, and that takes a period of time." He added this caution, quote, "It's a bad death. It's a bad thing." He was reminded today that he said in February, after those first 15 cases, famously, that it would soon be down to close to zero. He said today, quote, "At the appropriate time, it will be down to zero," meaning the part that was left out was that it would climb to 1 million in between. The president also said today, quote, "Many good experts, very good people too, said this would never affect the United States. The experts got it wrong. A lot of people got it wrong. A lot of people had no idea it would be this serious," close quote. Except, of course, for that Washington Post reporting yesterday that he was briefed on it numerous times back as far as January, and they weren't wrong. He said we will be at 5 million tests a day very soon, and that is fiction as far as we can tell. All of our testing combined thus far equals 5.7 million. In other news, he said, quote, "New Jersey's in great shape. Ivanka just spoke with the governor." In making his case to reopen schools across our country, he said, quote, "We found out that young people do extraordinarily well. Young people do very well with this horrible scourge." He said computer learning, as he called it tele-learning, just doesn't measure up. Quote, "It's not the same thing as being in the classroom of a great college or a college of any kind." Presumably, he's including their America's subpar colleges. Back here in the real world tonight, the coronavirus death toll in the U.S. stands at more than 58,000, and with over 1 million confirmed cases among the 1.7% of the population that's been tested. In fact, just today, we crossed a grim threshold. The death toll from this virus now exceeds the number of Americans killed in the Vietnam War, over 19 years of fighting. This afternoon, Trump was asked for an explanation in light of his earlier prediction about the pandemic.
Back in late February, you predicted that the number of cases would go down to zero. How did we get from your prediction of zero to 1 million?
Well, it will go down to zero ultimately.
The experts at the time saying that the number of cases would go up, we would have community spread.
Many very good experts, very good people too, said that this would never affect the United States. It wouldn't affect Europe. It wouldn't affect anything outside of China. So we were listening to experts, and we always will listen to experts, but the experts got it wrong.
As Trump pushes to reopen our country, more states are doing a slow rollout, lifting those stay-at-home orders, even with less than 2% of our nation tested. Florida's governor expected to announce reopening plans tomorrow, while experts warn about the lack of testing there. The White House has announced a plan to help states get more people tested, but there's concern about how it will work.
Some health experts say the U.S. needs 5 million tests per day by June in order to safely reopen. You unveiled a plan yesterday that will increase testing, but not by that much. Why not? And can you get to that benchmark?
We are way ahead on testing. We are the best in the world on testing.
You're confident you can surpass 5 million tests per day? Is that?
Oh, well, we're going to be there very soon.
Again, we have tested 5.7 million in total. Right now, we're conducting about 200,000 tests a day. Dr. Fauci, who again today said it was inevitable that we'll have a return of this virus in the fall, also said that everyone who needs a test should be able to get one by this summer.
Everyone who needs a test, according to the way we're approaching the identification, isolation, contact tracing, keeping the country safe and healthy, that hopefully we should see that as we get towards the end of May, the beginning of June. That's what I'm being told by the people who are responsible for the testing. I take them for their word. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to go to them and say, what happened here? Why didn't it happen? And how can we fix it?
The White House response to this pandemic is getting a less than enthusiastic review, let's say, from one Republican senator who is a frequent target of Donald Trump.
The first phase, which is getting ready to respond, clearly we were not in a position of extraordinary strength. We didn't have the testing as fast as we could have or should have. We did not have the personal protective equipment that we would have hoped to have. That first phase was not one that will stand out, I think, as being a great moment in American leadership.
Meanwhile, governors are taking matters into their own hands on behalf of their own states. Here's what California Governor Gavin Newsom told me earlier today about his effort to ramp up testing there.
We just made a deal for 80 new sites, end-to-end testing. First ones went up in 3 of our most rural counties in the state in the last 2 days. All the rest of those 80 sites will be up by Monday, focusing on inner cities, focusing on rural areas, really focusing on those disparities in a meaningful and more substantive way.
We'll have more of that conversation just ahead in our broadcast. Recent coronavirus outbreaks at meat processing plants across our country underscore the importance of increasing testing capacity. Trump has just signed an executive order mandating the nation's meat processing plants to stay open, even as major plants are suspending operations due to workers getting sick and dying. According to their union, nearly 20 workers have died. At least 5,000 have been affected. Just days ago, the chairman of Tyson Foods warned that the food supply chain is breaking. Tyson had already had to close some of its plants. It's a big name in that industry. Washington Post reporting that workers in large plants, quote, stand 2 to 4 feet apart. Because of the mechanical noise of industrial processing lines, workers must place their mouths within inches of supervisors' ears when they ask for bathroom breaks because they have to be replaced immediately so that work continues uninterrupted.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.